Welcome to How to Survive with Danielle and Kristine, the show that'll teach you how to survive the things that could kill you.
Like eagles attacking, your car stalled on the railroad tracks, or being lost at sea.
And the things that just make you wish you were dead.
Forgetting to wear a bra, losing your car in a parking lot, or having to poop in a bucket.
Oh, that sounds all terrible.
Maybe we should just play the theme song.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, let's do that.
Let's do it.
Ground is shaking under our feet. Mountains on fire, flooding in the street. Can't breathe the air, can't fight the feeling. Gobbling down Xanax ain't the way to be dealing. Gotta do better than just getting high. We gotta stick together if we're gonna survive. How to survive. How to survive.
Welcome to How to Survive with Danielle and Kristine. I'm Danielle.
I'm Kristine.
I guess I'm just laughing because I just did a silly face before we started to pump up my energy.
I loved it. It looked like you were so excited to be here, you couldn't contain yourself.
I can't. I am so excited.
I'm excited to be here.
Sure.
I got my car back.
I know, that's very exciting.
So here's some exciting news.
Yes.
I think it's still going to be exciting by the time listeners hear this.
Sure.
I was listening to The Daily.
Yeah.
Probably everyone's heard of that podcast. And they had a whole episode on Adnan Syed's release.
Was that today's daily?
That was today's Daily.
Okay.
For those of you who haven't heard of him, he's from the wildly popular Serial podcast that was like... It was
the podcast that launched all true crime podcasts.
That thing, that was such an event. I mean, I remember Sven and I texting each other and being like, the new episode just dropped.
I know.
And like we'd be just in our cars, like parked somewhere listening and like calling each other to talk about that episode. It was like must see podcasting, must listen.
Did you listen to it, Karen?
I did.
Yeah.
Everybody did.
Well,
not people who don't listen
to podcasts, but
yeah.
I mean, I had friends who were like had no idea what I was talking about, but mostly, yeah.
SNL did a skit on it.
Yes, and then basically that character on Tina Fey's character on Only Murders in the Building is basically Sarah Koenig.
Yes, you're right.
It's like that's
exaggerated.
Sort of host. Yeah, and Sarah Koenig, yes, was my grandmother. So,
oh my gosh,
it's very exciting that she pronounces it Koenig.
It is.
Anyway, so the news is...
Well, the news is they passed a new law in the, it's Boston, right?
Jesus, I have no idea.
Oh my gosh.
I've only listened to hours and hours and watched hours and hours, but I don't remember
those
where it took place.
Those kind of details don't stay in my head.
Baltimore.
Thank you. I had the B right. They passed a new law that after 20 years, if you were convicted of a crime when you were a teenager, after 20 years, they will look at your case again. And so they looked at the case and they were like, wait a second, there's so many problems here. There's so many different issues. And there's evidence that wasn't looked at the time, a couple handwritten notes that seemed to point to another suspect. Basically, they said, we're not saying you're innocent.
Right. I've heard the prosecutors.
We don't have enough.
Don't necessarily think he's innocent.
And Sarah Koenig is in this episode of The Daily talking, and she was like, I'm not going to say any names, but I was like, oh, it's definitely Jay. Remember the friend Jay, who was his best friend, who was like, he called me and said, I'm going to show you the body, and I want you to come and help me bury it.
Right.
I was always like, Jay, you are lying. This story kept changing.
So she thinks it is Jay who killed?
I do. She didn't.
I just don't remember enough. I have such a fucking terrible memory that I'm just like, I don't even remember if I left off thinking he was guilty or not. I remember every episode I was like, he did it. Nope, he didn't do it.
Same.
I still don't remember where I left off on it.
I felt the same way. I think at the time I was like, he did not do this. And then there'd be another episode and I'd be like, maybe. I think.
And then I've heard like, they purposely left out really incriminating things against him from the podcast.
Yes, it was. I remember feeling like a little bit manipulated in the sense that it was like that Making a Murder Netflix documentary where I was like, whoa, they wanted me to think that guy didn't do it, but then they left out so much information that when you go on your own and you read more of the case,
it's really disappointing because you can make it as interesting and put, I don't know, it's like she fell in love with him. I mean, that's how you, right? That was sort of the joke, was like she was getting the hots for Adnan.
Documentaries are not unbiased.
No, they're not. Well, I didn't know you were going to talk about this today, but coincidentally, I am now reading Compulsion. Do you know what Compulsion is?
No.
Okay. Have you heard of the Leopold and Loeb case from the 20s?
It's familiar.
Okay. You probably know it, Garen, because you know the Hitchcock movie Rope.
Yes.
Okay. So Rope and Compulsion are two movies that are based on this story of two teenagers who killed basically because they thought they were superior human beings and that there's no free will. Like, this is what they have a different sense of morality. Anyway, they're fucked up. They're these fucked up teenagers who are brilliant, of course. And Compulsion is a very thinly veiled story of, they changed the names of the guys, but basically they called it the first true story novel.
I want to read it.
Because it's fascinating and it's really written well. And it's just like, gets you into the mind of the guys, but it also gets you into the mind of the author. Happened to have gone to school with them. They were all three geniuses who graduated high school at 14 or 15. And he was a reporter. This guy who wrote the book, he was a reporter. It's like, his name is, it's Meyer Levin, because I always want to say Meyer Lemon.
Yes.
It's Meyer Levin. And I'm not quite clear how much he actually was involved in reporting on the case. That part's a little confusing because I don't know how much is fiction about that part. But anyway, if you like spooky things, and you're interested in human psychology,
and sign me up.
It's I've always liked the movie Rope, and I've always known about the story, but I've never realized. I don't know if I realized Compulsion the movie was based on a book, but anyway.
So there's Compulsion the book, and there's also Compulsion the movie, which is not related to Rope, which is also a movie by Alfred Hitchcock.
Right, and they're all loosely based, or more than loosely based, on Leopold and Loeb.
This is so exciting because you've given me 4 things to look forward to.
3 things.
No, because I don't know about Leopold and Loeb either, so I can go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
I've never seen Rope, which is exciting because I love Alfred Hitchcock.
Right.
I love Alfred Hitchcock Presents.
Wait, I just want to say this and then we'll get to the show. But so yesterday, look, I am employed. I actually am working, but the show, it doesn't really take that much time.
Braggart.
So I still have a lot of free time on my hands. And so yesterday I was eating lunch. I was like, well, I'll just watch something while I'm eating lunch. So I put in on Netflix House. Like maybe I can watch one of those house renovation shows.
Okay.
So it's some show called like Instant House Makeover or Instant something. And Danielle Brooks from Orange is the New Black is the host for no reason. Oh, I'm sorry. She's not the host. She's the team leader. She knows nothing about making houses. Anyway, the premise of the show is that they get you out of your house. Like one person's in on it. And they get you out of your house for 12 hours. But meanwhile, they've reconstructed basically your house in a warehouse. And they've already figured out what they're going to do. And in 12 hours, they're going to remodel your entire house. So, okay, fair enough. That's the premise. This is the first episode.
Okay.
First episode. The man is the husband is the one who is in on it.
Okay.
He has submitted them. So it's him and his wife. And his wife's mother, who's blind.
What? Why? I mean,
so when it's the reveal, it's like, this room is really dark blue, Mom.
Why would they do that?
It's like, oh, Mom. And then she just keeps going, it seems really fresh. And then I'm thinking, like, well, now you're going to have to learn how to navigate a whole new... you have to memorize a whole new
It's just more work for her.
It's just so much more work. She was crying and she was very appreciative, and they made like a sensory garden for her. But like there were steps in the garden. There were steps down to the garden, and she is 100% blind from what I could understand. She wasn't born blind. She like, from some reason became... So I'm like, this is so funny. Mom, the couch is pink.
Well, I guess she knows what pink... I mean,
yes,
she understands
but it was
pink.
so weird. And I was like, this is the first episode they show. They should have started with a more normal situation.
That's so bizarre.
It was very sweet, and the woman was pregnant, and they were going to bring a baby, and the house was a disaster. It was a very cute house that was a disaster.
Yes.
So ultimately, it will be easier for the woman to get around, the grandmother to get around. But She just kept saying it seems so fresh.
Fresh.
She's just kicking things over.
Yeah, she's just tripping over the ottoman.
Must have been horrible to edit.
Oh, I forgot to tell you, Mom, there's an ottoman there now. It's orange. Okay. Are we ready to get into our topic? Speaking of being lost in your own home.
Yes.
This is how to survive being lost at sea.
Ooh, I love this.
Okay. So it's kind of how to survive at sea with many different situations that go on. It's not all about being lost at sea, but my stories, plural, are about being lost at sea. We'll see if we get to both of them. We'll see.
Okay.
First, a little factoid.
I love factoids.
Jose Salvador Alvarenga holds the record for the longest solo survival at sea. He was adrift for 438 days.
What?
That's more than a year.
Yeah.
And traveled over 6,700 miles.
That's not a record you want to ever hold, I would imagine.
No. Below is an extract from the newly released Ultimate Survival Manual. Rich Johnson is a former paratrooper and demolition officer who once survived in the desert wilderness for a year, living in a cave and eating insects.
Oh.
This is the guy who wrote this. I just thought that was interesting.
That is.
Find drinking water at sea.
Oh, yeah, that seems hard.
Yes. Water everywhere and not a drop to drink. Now, not if you're prepared. Resourceful and willing to put effort into collecting drinkable water. And you should be. It will save your life.
Yeah, I'm going to make this effort.
Trap moisture. Outfit your vessel with a plastic tarpaulin. I looked it up. It's basically a tarp.
Yeah.
I guess tarp is just short for tarpaulin.
Yeah, maybe they're just being fancy.
Yeah. To catch rainwater and drain it into containers, allowing the first drops of rain to wash the salt off of the tarpaulin. If you don't have a tarpaulin, use fabric to absorb moisture. Then wring it out into containers. Never drink salt water. It will make you ill and speed dehydration and death. So they're saying that everything already has salt on it when you're in the ocean.
Okay.
So you have to
rinse that off first.
Yes.
So don't just drink those first drops.
That's right.
Oh, that's going to be hard. You're going to be so thirsty.
So thirsty. Maybe you can just hold out your tongue.
That's true.
And get the rain.
Get those drops. What if your tongue has salt all over it?
It probably does. Don't swallow your tongue.
That's going to be hard. I'm thirsty.
When you've been adrift at sea for a period of time, all your clothes end up encrusted with salt crystals. At the first sign of rain, give all your clothes and other fabrics a seawater bath. Yes, it's salty. I know it sounds paradoxical.
It does.
It's salty, but not as salty as the salt residue, which will make any water it contacts undrinkable. So they're saying the crystals,
your clothes
yes,
in the salty
in the
sea.
salt water, it's better than. I know it sounds crazy.
I'll do it. I
know. If you have sails, make a bowl out of them to capture the water. Tarps, shirts, plastic sheets, and even the raft itself can all collect water. Any can, bottle, or other container can store it. Because I was thinking, like, why wouldn't you just collect it in the bottle? But then I was like, oh, obviously that's harder to make sure it aims into the bottle. So you want to collect it in something bigger and then pour it into the bottle or can. The first water you collect will have a high salt content, so store it separately and use it to clean wounds or to wash food before eating.
Okay.
Orient yourself by the stars. That's the exact reaction I had when I read it. I was like,
yeah, right.
Okay, well, I hope I have enough water until someone finds me.
Yeah.
Because
what star? I don't even know.
I'm going to tell you, and maybe it'll make sense to people who
know about stars,
who are just better at these things.
Okay.
To find Polaris, the prominent star that's close to the North Celestial Pole, look for the famous pattern of stars called the Big Dipper or the Plow in the constellation Ursa Major. Have you ever been able to find something that someone points out to you in the sky? Or do you just nod and pretend you see it?
I can see the Big Dipper.
Okay.
Often. It's the one that looks like it has the handle and the cup thing.
Right.
I could see that, but I don't think I could do anything about it.
It had a picture of it in this article I was reading, and I still didn't understand it. My mind does not want, I'm just like, okay.
But even if I'm lost at sea and I look up, I don't know what to do about it.
Well, wait, I'm going to tell you.
Oh, okay.
It's not going to help.
I'm sure it's going to clear everything up.
All right, ready?
Yeah.
Mentally draw a line connecting the stars at the end of the Big Dipper's bowl, Then extend that line out 5 times its length to arrive at Polaris. It's hard to miss, since it's the brightest star in Ursa Minor or the Little Dipper.
Okay.
Seek the South Pole. Traveling, even if I could do all this, I don't know what that tells me.
Yeah, because even if I'm like, okay, I found that brightest star.
Does that take me to Best Buy or something?
And?
I don't know. Traveling below the equator, find the Southern Cross's long axis and extend a line down 4.5 times the axis length. Then locate the bright stars Rigel Kent and Hadar to the left of the Southern Cross.
Wait a second.
Look, you can't get
Those
me.
just sound like characters in Harry Potter.
They are. Professor Rigel Kent and Hadar the half giant. I know. It makes no figure the midpoint. I mean, I was gonna leave all this out, but I knew it would be funny because I knew none of us would understand. Figure the midpoint between these 2 stars, then imagine a perpendicular line from that point to the end of the line.
Come on.
That intersection marks the South Pole. Okay, now we're getting into more practical things. Catch fish in open waters.
Okay.
If you're in a life raft, see, maybe what you should do is if you're in this situation and you're like, oh my God, I'm lost at sea. I'm so scared. I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And you read these instructions and then you're like, oh my God, I don't know. I don't understand what they're talking about. And then it says catch fish. You're like, oh,
that's
okay,
easy.
I'll just do that. I'll catch the fish and get the water. And everything seems easy compared to measure out 5.5 times the length of
that wants you
the
to do
midpoint of the star.
Some kind of geometry.
Yeah. If you're in a life raft, small fish often gather beneath the raft. I thought this was good. Either out of curiosity or because they feel sheltered there. Who knows? But catching those fish might satisfy your need for nourishment. Troll a hand line with a hook and anything flashy to serve as a lure. Maybe your keys at what point? I mean, you don't really need them at this point.
What do you need those for?
Jig the lure up and down a few meters below the surface, being careful not to snag the life raft with the hook.
Oh, don't do. You would feel so
You
dumb.
would so stupid.
Oh, my
One of
God.
those things where you're reaching behind you because you cast it, and then you flipped open the raft, and it goes over you and end on the water.
And you'd feel when you're dying, you're gonna feel so dumb.
So stupid. After catching a fish, use the guts as bait to catch more. Yeah. I hope there's no sharks around where you are.
Yeah, it feels like also like here's some ways to lure a shark.
I did skip the part about sharks because we've already talked about that. So didn't we do a shark episode?
Yes,
Am I
we
making
did.
things shit? I was like, am I just confusing this with St.
It was
John's?
your famous New Zealand accent.
Oh, Jesus. Okay. Australian.
Yeah.
I don't do New Zealand.
Sorry. I have a hard time telling those apart. Not
So do I.
yours.
No, I don't.
Just
I don't.
in general.
Yeah. Okay. Small sailboats capsize easily, but lucky they're easy to right. Crawl up onto the overturned hull, grab the centerboard, which is called the keel, and lean back.
Oh.
Using your weight against the centerboard as a lever to flip the boat over.
Okay.
When it's upright, crawl aboard and bail out the water. If your capsized boat is a motorboat without a centerboard, riding it will take a bit more doing.
Yeah, I'd imagine.
Tie one end of a rope to something secure in the middle of a boat, like an oarlock, which is also a character from Harry Potter, if I'm not.
I thought so.
They have magical powers, but they're only half. They're half wizards and half boats. Toss the free end of the rope up onto the hull. Crawl onto the hull to grab the free end of the rope facing the side where the rope is tied. Back up toward the water and lean back, using your weight against the rope to pull the boat over. Once it's upright, scramble on and start bailing. I'm not kidding. I think my experience with Pilates will help in this situation.
Yeah,
There's a lot of times you got to you're pulling on ropes, and to not fall forward into the well, as it's called, you have to lean back. And use your abs.
Your core strength is
My core strength is going to save
out
me.
of control.
It really is.
But I would say if you're on the speedboat, you don't want to use your keys to fish because
No, not
you
those
probably
keys.
need those keys.
I meant house keys, but did you hear Karen just said he's doomed?
Oh yeah, my core is. I don't have a core.
You're coreless. Okay, put out a boat fire. A fire on a boat is a life-threatening catastrophe, so it's wise to have a plan in place before you leave shore. Step 1, store fresh fire extinguishers. That blind lady knows when the extinguishers are fresh.
She does.
She loves them.
She knows about freshness.
Store fresh fire. Just picturing her at one point, a husband and wife go in to tour And Danielle just sits on the porch with the woman, and she's like, your daughter's smiling really big right now. Because she's watching her through the window.
Oh my God.
All right. Store fresh fire extinguishers in locations near the galley and the engine compartment, the two most likely locations for fire. Step 2, if fire breaks out, move everyone out of the cabin and get them into life vests. Call VHF channel 16 to report the emergency. Prepare to abandon ship. Step 3, fight the fire with extinguishers, keeping a clear escape route behind you at all times. Always extinguish fires from the bottom up. We learned that on our fire episode.
Yeah.
And move back and forth, right? Plug a leak. Water is supposed to stay outside of the boat, but inevitably some gets inside due to rain or waves coming over the bow. That's not a big problem. However, when water invades because of a leak, the problem becomes quite real. Find the trouble spot. Your top priority is to locate the leak. If you can't find it, head for dry land fast. Check to see that the boat's drain plug is closed. If it's open, that's your culprit. Heal your hull. That's good for you. Just in general, advice for you.
I'm always
Chris.
wanting to heal my hull.
You have to. That's why you're in PT, right?
Yeah.
To heal your hull.
Yep. Working on it 2 times a week.
If the leak is caused by a failed through hull fitting, stop it with a conical soft wood plug that should be tethered to the hull. Protect with plastic. If the hull is fractured due to impact, because maybe that's how you got lost in the first place.
Oh, right.
Place a large plastic sheet across the leak on the outside of the hull. Secure the plastic with ropes. Water pressure will help hold it in place as you carefully head for land. Okay, I have 2 stories, just so the listener knows. If I only get to one, it's because we had to edit. But here we go. Deborah Kiley was no stranger to the seas. She had spent most of her life working as a crew member on... I didn't ask you if you were ready for a story.
You didn't.
Are you guys ready for a story?
No.
Oh, shit.
I'm always ready for a story.
Okay, she had spent most of her life working as a crew member on yachts around the world, so she thought that signing up to crew the 58-foot sailing yacht Trashman...
Wait.
In October of 1982 was just another job. It would turn out to be anything but. John Lippeth, the captain of the ship, brought his girlfriend Meg Mooney along for the ride.
I'm worried about this guy.
You should be.
Trash man? Okay.
He's the captain. He's not the owner of the ship. He's the captain. The 2 other crew members on the ship were Mark Adams and Brad Kavanaugh. The plan was to take the yacht from Annapolis, Maryland down to Florida to meet up with its owner.
Okay.
I guess Mr. Trash. The first, please, that's my father. The first half of the trip was pretty smooth sailing, although Kiley, so Kiley is our main person here, started noticing things that made her uneasy. Lippeth, that's the captain, kept making excuses to go below deck, for instance, and Kiley soon realized that their captain was afraid of the ocean.
What? Oops. I've never done this before.
I read an extended... Okay, this is from a book, and I read an extended passage from the book. Yeah. I didn't read the whole book, so I don't know, but I don't understand how he got to this point. I mean... I don't know how he got to be the captain of a yacht,
amazing.
Having been afraid of the ocean. Lippeth and Adams is one of the crew members, also spent the entire voyage completely drunk.
Oh, my Lord.
Of the 5 people on the yacht, only Kiley and Kavanaugh were experienced, capable sailors. After the boat passed North Carolina, the trip took a turn for the worst. A massive storm appeared out of nowhere, and Trashman headed right into the heart of it. Kiley recalls wind speeds of over 70 knots and 40-foot waves.
Oh.
So powerful, they ripped holes in the boat.
My God.
2 days after they set sail, the yacht, torn apart by the sea, began to sink.
Yeah,
They're just sitting on a sinking boat for 2 days. The crew managed to make it to a lifeboat, but not before the ship's rigging seriously injured Mooney, that's the girlfriend of the drunk captain, leaving severe lacerations on her arms and legs. Her bleeding attracted sharks.
No. Oh, my gosh.
Who followed the lifeboat for the remainder of the journey.
Oh.
The crew found themselves adrift with no supplies or water miles from land. 2 days after the Trashman sunk, Lippeth and Adams, already dehydrated from alcohol and dying of thirst, began drinking seawater.
Oh, you dummies.
They started hallucinating and rambling incoherently. On the 3rd day, Lippeth...
That was probably a fun day for them, though.
It was probably fun. Yeah.
Right?
I mean, yeah. On the third day, maybe he had delusions of being able to crew a boat.
Yeah.
To captain a boat. On the third day, Lipeth, in a state of delirium, jumped into the water and attempted to swim to shore. He was immediately attacked and killed by the shark.
Oh no, my God. It's so horrible. But
It's so horrible,
it's
but it's just,
listen, if you're going to pretend you know how to sail,
it's just the word immediately. It's like, help. Soon Adams jumped aboard.
I got this, guys.
Okay. They're just drunk. Don't know how to. Okay. Soon Adams jumped overboard as well. Okay, I'm sorry. Muttering something about going to get some cigarettes.
Oh no, honey.
Maybe
You're not.
Maybe it's like, you know how you always say, like, oh, my husband went out to get cigarettes.
Yeah, and he never
that was
came
20
back.
years ago. Maybe he was practicing that line and just
And then he got eaten by sharks.
the sharks attacked him also so violently that the boat spun around and the water turned red.
Oh my God, that's grim.
That night, Mooney, this is the girlfriend who got lacerations, succumbed to her injuries, dying of blood poisoning.
I feel bad for her.
Yeah.
She didn't know what she was getting into.
No, she just thought she was having a good time.
She thought she was dating a boat captain that knew what he was doing.
Right. Kylie and Kavanaugh, the only two left, had to toss her body overboard where she too was eaten by sharks.
Guys, not for nothing, this would be a really good Jaws movie.
It would be such a good movie. It is, like I said, it is a book. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Shortly after, Kylie and Kavanaugh, close to death themselves, were spotted by a Russian cargo ship off the coast of Cape Hatteras. The crew rescued them 4 days after they abandoned ship and 5 days after setting sail. She wrote a book called No Victims, Only Survivors, 10 Lessons for Survival.
Oh.
Yeah, so I would check out that book.
I would change that title. There's at least 3 victims, right? Yeah.
Well, I guess she's saying she's not a victim. Or, well, it's supposed to be a how-to book, so maybe it's like there wouldn't be casualties if you like not gotten drunk. That's probably step 1.
Not
don't
pretend.
get drunk. Don't fake a license.
Know how to be a captain.
Right. Don't bring your girlfriend along on a job. Okay, here's the second story. You ready?
Yes.
This guy's name is Steve Callahan. All right, it's written in the first person. I love boats and I've spent all my life around them. By my mid-20s, by my 20s, I was designing and building them, one of which was a 6.5 sloop I named Napoleon Solo.
Not Trash Man?
No. When I was 29, I sailed her alone across the Atlantic. I'd been dreaming of doing it since I was 12, and the crossing was exhilarating. On the return journey, the first week was calm, and when a gale started, I wasn't too concerned. I knew the boat, and I'd been through much worse. Late that night, something, probably a whale or a large shark, smashed into the boat with a deafening bang, creating a hole in the hull.
Uh-oh.
I woke up in my bunk, water thundering over me.
That's terrifying.
Yes. Judging by the level it was coming in, I knew she was sinking fast. I felt an odd mixture of sensations. Fear, panic, even slight amusement at the fact that there was a camera attached to the back of the boat taking these dramatic shots of the storm and my sinking boat that no one would ever see. Then I snapped into autopilot. I started to pack my life raft, but realized that I'd have to dive down into the cabin if I wanted to get essential survival items. So this is a guy who's prepared, but now his boat's flooding and he has to go get this stuff. Water, food, flares, a spear gun, and sleeping bag. The boat was almost completely submerged, but I held my breath and went under again and again.
Oh my God.
I know, it's terrifying. I remember the water below seemed so peaceful compared with the sea raging outside. I felt like entering a watery tomb.
Oh, that's so scary.
But that's peaceful, he's saying.
Why do people do this?
I don't know.
I'm scared just hearing it.
I clambered, exhausted, onto the inflatable rubber raft and attached it to the end of a rope that was tied to the boat. To me, it still felt like a lifeline. That night, I huddled under the canopy of my 6-foot circular raft with waves beating the sides, constantly bailing out water with an old tin can. Just before dawn, the rope came free from the boat, and I knew I was totally alone. I was now adrift in the middle of the Atlantic, 800 miles west of the Canaries, but heading in the opposite direction. All I had was a little food and enough water for a few days. In the coming days, I had a lot of time to think, and I regretted every mistake I'd ever made.
Like this one?
Yes. I was divorced and felt I had failed at human relations generally, at business, and now even at sailing. I desperately wanted to get through it so I could make a better job of my life. I kept a log, fished with my spear gun, and made water with a solar still, a contraption that took me days to get working properly, producing just over a pint a day. I guess the solar still is something that desalinates the water,
Oh, wow.
I'm guessing.
Okay.
Around day 14, I saw a ship, lit a flare, and thought I'd been seen, but it just went right on by. Every morning came with a bit of hope, but each afternoon I was in despair. I did see a handful of ships, but none of them saw me. After a month at sea, I drifted right through the shipping lanes. As I moved a month, can you imagine?
No.
But also just like you would go crazy. Like there's no one to talk to. There's no one. There's like.
How do you not just throw yourself over the side?
I don't know. As I moved into tropical waters, it became hotter and the dehydration unbearable. One of the worst parts of being adrift for so long was the physical discomfort, the salt water sores on my skin, the hunger and constant thirst. By day 50, I'd been struggling for 10 days to keep the raft afloat with a pump after part of it ripped. I was at my lowest. I broke down and gave up, but then I got scared by the thought I would be dead in a few hours. I found a way to fix the raft, and it felt like the biggest victory of my life. The next phase was just hanging on to life, really, looking at my watch, watching the minutes drag by. In the last few days, the solar stills packed up, and I figured this must be the end. I guess that means it stopped working.
Stopped working, it
Backed
sounds
up,
like.
maybe.
Yeah.
I had 3 cans of water left. My body and mind were shutting down. It was as if I could feel all the... I get like this if I don't eat lunch.
Yeah,
I'm not kidding.
Like if I don't have a snack bar in my car.
Yeah, I get disoriented. I don't know which end is up.
Well, you know what we're never going to do?
Be on a boat without food.
Go out to sea
Ever.
alone.
My mind and body were shutting down. It was as if I could feel all the people who had ever been lost at sea around me. I had no more to give. Soon after, I was spotted by some fishermen off Guadalupe after they'd seen birds hovering over the raft.
Wow.
The fish guts that I had thrown back into the sea had attracted both seabirds and fish, and a whole ecosystem had sprung up around my raft. By the time the fishermen reached me, I had lost a third of my body weight, and it was 6 weeks before I could walk properly again.
Oh, my Lord.
I still don't regret my 76 days alone in the raft. To this day, I feel lightened by what I went through because it changed me for the better. But would I want to be adrift in the ocean again? No way.
Wow. I'm always
Crazy,
surprised.
right?
I want to hear from one person that's like, I completely regret that experience.
Oh, I'm sure that first woman did.
She must. I hope she says that in her book. If she's like,
I don't know.
If she's like,
Yeah, I know what you mean. People trying to make it's the false positivity.
I would never change that experience because it taught
Yeah.
me so much about how to live my life. I
Right.
mean, I think you have to find a positive spin on it. But I'm also just amazed by people that are like, you know what sounds good? Going out into the ocean alone.
I mean, this guy obviously is much more prepared than one
For
of us
sure.
would be. So, as horrible and challenging as it was, at least he had some
He had the right stuff.
knowledge and skills. And it
yes.
sounds like it did change his life. I don't
Yeah.
know. In my mind, he got back together with his wife.
Yeah, I like
and they,
to think
and they
that.
made babies. I don't know.
They're living happily together.
They're living happily together.
They go to Tahoe every year.
Of course they do.
They have a place on Tahoe. Mm-hmm. That's what I like to think about them.
I like to think that about them too.
Those were great stories.
You see why I couldn't choose. And there were a lot of stories. Like I found a site that had lots of stories and people who were adrift at sea longer than these two were. But I thought these had so many elements to it. I mean,
drama, intrigue, heartbreak.
Yes.
Just everything you want in a story, Danielle.
Some were, people who were caught in the middle of a war and like would end up in the water, for a year. It's just crazy. Crazy shit.
I mean, it's a miracle
It is.
what you're bringing to us.
Thank you. I agree. I guess we'll be right back right after this.
Yeah, I can't wait. Welcome back to How to Survive with Danielle and Kristine. Danielle,
Christine,
I think you know what I'm going to ask.
what I did during my break?
Yep.
I think you know what I'm going to answer.
You went to the bathroom.
Yes. Peed. That's it.
So glad. We can't come back with a full bladder.
No.
Our audience deserves.
They deserve an empty, full hearts, empty bladders.
Yes.
Can't lose.
Is that from The Blind Side?
No, it's from Friday Night Lights.
I've never watched it, even though I love Kyle Chandler.
How could you say you
my
love
God.
Kyle Chandler and never watch that
where
show?
did it come from?
Exactly.
Where
Good
does the
point.
love come from?
Well,
Sorry, I just
no,
started
that's
talking.
okay, Sarah.
I loved him early days when he was the time traveling.
that show.
from the
that
newspaper.
one season show.
Early edition.
Oh my God!
Well, we've
See?
talked about it before.
Yes, we've talked ad nauseum about
And
Kyle
then
Chandler.
Bloodlines.
Yes.
One of the most memorable episodes of Grey's Anatomy. Again, I'm inserting myself before I've been introduced,
Please.
but I
That's okay.
can't not speak.
We have.
I didn't know he was on Grey's Anatomy.
I didn't know that
One of the most
either.
memorable episodes of season 1 or 2, the episode where she has her hands in a patient that's about to blow up, like a bomb is in there, and if she takes her hand out, it's going to blow up. I mean, Kyle is like
It's speed on a body.
Yeah, it is. It
on
totally
a
was.
body.
Christina Ricci's in that episode. It's
my
great as a
God.
guest star, and so is Kyle Chandler. Great episode.
Is he an EMT?
He's either the EMT or like a cop or
He
some-
comes in, right?
Yeah,
And
he's in the room
yeah,
and
it's
he's
like
telling her
dusty.
like, it's a very memorable
I
scene.
can't believe any of you have watched Grey's Anatomy, but
You know what? Let me introduce
yes, please
our
do.
very funny and talented guest, Sara Schaefer. She's a comedian. She's a writer. She's an artist.
Yeah.
She's performing some live shows in LA. Go to all her social medias. We're going to link it to this episode coming out. She also has a book, Grand. You should
Yes.
buy it, support our guest. And she's very funny. So thank you
And
for being
Sarah,
on the show,
I know
Sarah.
you from Twitter because
yeah.
I watch your videos, which are
Yeah.
hysterical.
Thank you.
Sarah has these videos that kind of give you like insight into showbiz in a very sardonic way, which I appreciate. And they're just hysterical. And I've always, and Chris said, I'm going to book her. And I'm like, oh my God, I love her. Yeah. So that's great. I'm so
Thank you.
excited.
We're very happy to
you.
have her.
And you do miniatures, which my son dabbles in a little bit.
Yeah.
So people always send me like links to miniatures and stuff.
Yeah.
And-
I'm at the point now where I'm so deep in it that when you just, if you're listening and you're like, start following me and you're like, oh, I saw something miniature, and you think you're going to DM me and you think I haven't seen it yet.
Right.
You're a
F
fool.
you. Right.
The algorithm is on me.
Yeah.
Okay. It's got me.
Enough.
I already follow all the accounts. I already know.
Yes.
By the time it hits you, I feel like from the Devil Wears Prada, like,
Right. It's no longer hip.
and this isn't blue. You know, like that's, I'm deep in that world now.
Well, I can't wait to show my daughter Alex is 10 and she is obsessed with making things small. Like if we're making pancakes for breakfast, she's like,
Oh, yeah.
can I make some miniature pancakes, Mom, with
you
the batter?
serious?
And I'm like, yeah, go ahead. And she'll make really
the tiny
tiny
ones, like a
and
little drop.
She'll
Yeah.
stack them. She'll find something to
Oh, I
make.
love it.
A plate, a small plate. She'll stack them.
Really?
Get a tiny, tiny bit of butter.
Yes.
A little bit of syrup. And she's like,
really love that.
and she's like, for her, she goes, Mom, this is so satisfying.
Exactly.
Wow.
It
That's so
really
interesting.
hits something in her to make something, whatever it is, she'll be like, I made the smallest plate of pasta. She likes to do food or
Miniature
she likes
food,
to
yeah.
get clay and she'll make the tiniest little bowl of fruit. Doesn't play with dolls anymore.
Right.
But likes to make the things for the doll. Like
Yes.
it's
She
fascinating.
sounds a lot like me.
Really, yeah. So I'm gonna put her on all of your.
She's going to start DMing
How old
you.
is she?
She's 10.
Okay, well, let's,
You guys might hit on
sometimes
some.
some inappropriate stuff slips onto my timeline.
Teeny
let's
tiny
just be
penises?
careful. Yeah, no.
I will.
It's like my stand-up. If I would post a clip, I don't know if I would want a 10-year-old. Most of it's clean. It's fine. She'll be fine.
She's already seen some things
Yeah, I
with me as her
figured that
mother,
much,
so
yeah.
it might be okay.
Yeah.
So first half of the episode, Danielle.
Yes.
Why don't you let the audience?
Well, the first half of the
reset
episode,
audience.
we talked about being lost at sea, and now we're going to talk about riding the waves with Sara Schaefer.
Yeah, Sarah. So give us some intel.
Well, specifically for me, first of all, I'm glad I missed it because I am actually really afraid of the ocean.
Me too.
I love the beach. I do not
Yeah.
like the ocean.
Yeah.
I like
Same.
to be at the beach. I maybe dabble, like
Yeah.
I put my feet in.
Yes.
If it's a very calm day. And I'm talking, my beach that I always have gone to is in North Carolina.
Okay.
It's much more calm than a Pacific Coast beach.
Water's warmer, I imagine.
Right, soft sand, no rocks.
Oh, that sounds
it's
ideal.
really beautiful.
Yeah.
And but even then,
Yes.
I'm like, it's got to be like a lake for
Yeah.
me to want to get in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I it's what my book is about, actually.
Oh.
I did an 8-day whitewater rafting trip through the Grand Canyon, 228 miles on the Colorado River. Experienced some of the biggest rapids you can experience.
Now, what?
Yeah.
you have this fear of the ocean.
Yeah.
What made you? Was this like a way to challenge yourself?
A little bit, yeah. I also don't think I understood fully what I was getting into. My sister, my little sister Ross. I was planning for my 40th. I hate group coordinated trips.
Okay.
So I was like, I'll do a trip with each of my siblings.
Oh, how many siblings is this?
I have 3 siblings.
Okay.
And so my little sister and I decided to do a trip. She lives in Flagstaff, Arizona, which is very close to the Grand Canyon. And she knew people who had done these trips. She had friends who worked for this rafting company.
Okay.
Grand Canyon Whitewater. I love them. And she's like, my friend's going to give us a deal. Do you want to do it? Let's go on an adventure. And I'm like, that sounds amazing. I would love to do that. I do love nature. I like hiking, easy hiking.
Yeah.
I can do glamping, car camping, but roughing it, not really something I've ever done. And so when we were preparing for it, my life was so busy leading up to it, I didn't fully grasp what we were doing until I started like packing for it. And
I've had surgeries like that.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, I'm not really sure what's going on here, but I think they're putting a tube in my ear.
It's afterwards. They're
abdomen.
like, oh my God, you don't have cancer. And the surgeon is way more excited. Just went through that. The surgeon was way more excited than I thought she should have been. I was like, you really thought I had it? Oh, fuck.
Oh my God.
But yeah, the trip was, I just didn't understand. So, but there's different ways to do the Grand Canyon. But the trip I did, my sister was like, it's luxury. They cook for you. Everything's taken care of. You have a cot. I'm like, okay. And I'm like, well, what about a helmet? Do I need to buy it? And she's like, no, we don't wear helmets. And I was like, what? And she's like, the boats are so big that like they're almost unflippable. And I'm like, almost? They're saying it can happen? And so you're on the boat. It's motorized, so you're not having to row.
Oh.
It's a huge boat. I mean, like twice the size of this room.
But does it look like a raft? Like when you think of white water rafting?
Yeah. So if you've seen footage ever before, and you see these like really big, they're typically light blue, and they're really big, and they have 2 like side tubes that. I don't know how it works, but the front is like a lip that folds up, and like it's this just massive thing that goes through these waves, and there's up to like 20 people on the boat.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
And of course, when you Google like whitewater rafting on the Grand Canyon, the video you get is going to be like the most epic shredding near-death experience, And I was like, I immediately like shut it off and was like, oh no.
Yeah.
And but it was, I mean, children can go on these trips, like I think as young as 9 or 8 or something, and there might be a weight requirement too, but and old people are on, it's really what you make it if you're going to do the motorized trip, because you don't have to physically get yourself down the river.
Gotcha.
And but it was physically very demanding, as a very uncoordinated, weak person, like getting on and off the boat was stressful. Like it's slippery and like the river is raging and you're like having to and you're sleeping outside. It was too hot to sleep inside the tent. Okay. So I never slept outside before, like with nothing over me. Yeah. And that was really scary, knowing there were like, snakes and scorpions and all kinds of shit down there. And, so it was overwhelming in terms of the experience. The very first day, it was, I'm thinking, because I'm thinking this is like a movie or like a ride that's been curated for you.
Yes.
And at the very end, you do the worst thing. No, but it was like, this is a river, you can't control it.
Right.
Like you have to get in where you get in. And it was like, literally after lunch, they were like, all right, we're about to hit some big rapids. We're going to get our first class 8. And like,
oh my God, that sounds bad.
In the Grand Canyon.
I don't know what that means, but it sounds bad.
You're amazing. The Grand Canyon, so most rapids are on a 1 to 5 scale, but in the Grand Canyon they do 1 to 10 for some reason, and so 8 is very high, and but it's not crazy. Like if you're listening and you're like, I thought 5 was the highest. What the hell? Like,
gotcha.
10 is the highest in the Grand Canyon. And then I think above that, it's like unnavigable. Like,
They're like, get out.
No one should do that ever. They'll immediately die. I guess the Niagara Falls would be considered unnavigable, even though people still do it sometimes, I guess, in a barrel or whatever.
In cartoons.
But yeah, the first big rapid, I mean, I was really scared, and I was hyperventilating afterwards.
Wow.
Like, it was so scary. I mean,
is water just coming in?
So you're like, you just don't understand it until you're in it. But the way I would describe it is, you've done those like rafting rides at like the amusement park where you're in the round thing, and it's all controlled, and you like hit a thing and you kind of go up and over. But in the Grand Canyon, when you hit a rapid, you are literally going straight down. Like, it feels like you're going straight down a waterfall, even though it when you look at it, because it's so big, when you look at it, you're like, that just looks like rapids. You don't understand that it's a change in elevation. A lot of the times it's causing...
Wait, do you mean you're getting air?
Sometimes, yeah, you're getting air, but like you go down and then you hit the water. I mean, if this is what I'm trying to remember some of it, because it's like, if you want the real story, you got to buy my book. I'm giving you the short version. But when we get to this first big rapid, the guide on our boat goes, if it feels like you're underwater, it's because you probably are. And I was like, what? I'm like thinking you're going to go underwater, and you go straight down, or like, maybe it's not straight down, but it feels like straight down. You go up over what feels like a huge hill, and then you go down. It's just like a roller coaster. And then you slam a wall of water, and then it's just, you're covered. I mean, and it's really cold. Even in the middle of the summer, the water is very cold. Yeah, it's like 55 degrees.
No, thank
you. On a hot day, that feels great. But on the days that are overcast or rainy down there, it's brutal. Like, you're just and even though you're in full rain gear on those days, a little bit just going down, you're like,
God.
But the big rapids were really crazy, and at one point we got stuck, and it was we were going through this rapid called Crystal Falls or Crystal Rapid, and you go through, and it's one of these rapids that, like, they always tell you the story of the rapid, and it's like this rapid, or some lore, like, as you're approaching it, and then they're always like, okay,
25 people died here yesterday. Hold on.
Yeah, right. Well, so they don't tell you that kind of stuff, and then like you're supposed to like hold. The only thing holding you on the boat is you. So you're holding on to like a strap here and like a rope here, and you have to have two opposing handholds. Okay. So that holds you on the boat, and you're just like a rag doll. I mean, you really are just like flying and bumping and hitting, and like, just, it's so crazy. And like at one point someone did fall off like the boat. I mean, it just, when you realize, I'm summarizing here, but the point I'm trying to get to is like when you realize you're on this fun trip and it feels so controlled, and you realize you're not in control at all.
Right.
And
because
you're lucky.
Like what you were saying about it being a ride at a park. You're like, I've been on, roller coasters, which I hate. I hate roller coasters, but I've been like, okay, this is going to end, and this is all controlled, and it will end. But this is nature, and you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, and statistically speaking, you're not going to die.
Right.
But people do die down there, and it's, there was just a couple weeks ago a boat, one of the boats I was the type of boat I was on did flip, and someone died.
Seriously?
Yeah, and it's so anyway, we go through this Crystal Falls rapid thing, and it's like a class 10. It's like one of the two biggest ones in the river, and I'm like so nervous, because they had sort of been like, we're going to hit some really big water today. We're going through the roaring 20s, like they have different, mile 20 is like crazy, and mile this or whatever. And they have all this shorthand that they use. And, these guides are so experienced and skilled, but every day is different. The water levels,
Sure.
you know, the conditions, everything. And
So I just want to understand for a second. So you raft for some amount of time every day.
Yeah.
And then you pull over
Yeah.
and camp out.
Yeah, you just camping on the side. There's no structures. There's no. I was like, oh, there's going to be little like
Cabins.
Yeah, little like water spigots and
Yeah.
things like that. Nothing, and it's leave no trace. So you cannot leave anything,
Right.
crumbs, anything behind. Everybody pooped in a can, and we brought it on the. It was like this giant tank that everybody pooped in. Like our poop all went into this big tank together. This is the part that when people read my book, they're like, I was thinking about maybe doing this, but when I read about
the poop in a tank,
it's called the groover.
They were done.
They were like, I can't do the groover, can't do it.
So every day when you're pulling over and you're, I don't know how else to say it, pulling over.
Yeah, you pull over. Yeah,
and are you thinking, I can't wait to do this again, or this is horrible, I can't believe. And first of all, how many days total was it?
It was 8 days.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
It's a long time when you're down there. You're like, holy shit.
What were your
After day one, were you like, I got to stop? This is terrible. Or were you like, what's your state of mind?
I was never like, I hate this, get me out of here.
Okay.
I went into it. I had not to keep referring to my book, but I had an emotional struggle while I was down there that I didn't anticipate. Because I have really bad anxiety and negative thinking that is on a loop. And it was louder than it's ever been down there. And it was like, wow, maybe when you remove all the distractions, the screens, and your life's little, chores, all you're left with is yourself and your stupid thoughts.
Right.
And I just but I kind of came out on the other end of it, like almost purged temporarily from it.
Okay.
But physically, it was extremely difficult the first 2 days because I was like just uncomfortable and didn't sleep. I mean, sleep was a real issue down there for me, and like, how hot it was, and like,
you're just on the hard ground.
You're on a little cot, which is not big enough,
Yeah.
and you have to put it together yourself every
fuck
night.
That.
And like,
that's where I'm.
Yeah, everyone just started shaking their heads like, hell no.
I'll poop in a can, but I'm not putting together a cot.
Yeah. Luckily, we didn't have to cook for ourselves. I think that would have it would just been too exhausting to do everything. But yeah, we. But there was just so much magic. I mean, you go on these little side hikes, and there were like green water, glistening tropical paradise waterfall pools that you could swim in, and like it was magic. There was so much stuff that happened and you're in the Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
So you're looking at the Grand Canyon the whole time, and you're realizing you never understood the Grand Canyon, because the first time I went, I was disappointed. I was like, this looks like a painting. Like,
That's
I don't
what I've
even
heard.
understand it. It's just too hazy and like it's too big for you to grasp. I think seeing it from an airplane is actually
better,
more intense than seeing it when you walk up to it and you're like, okay,
that's what I've heard.
Saw a picture of this online. What's different? And you get a little scared that maybe you would fall in.
100%.
That's how I feel too. I'm always like, I don't need to get closer.
Yeah, don't look up how many people fall into the Grand or jump in. It's more than I would like.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never been there, but I have heard that, like, you
you
get
slip,
there.
it's over. I mean, it's too high up. It's a mile deep.
That's why I don't even want to take my kids there, because they always get closer to edges than I feel comfortable with.
I get,
and I'm always like, move back.
Yeah, I'm not the
plus
person.
Alex only likes tiny things. So
Exactly.
She
She'd be like, nah, can I make a small version of this?
Yeah.
But when you're in it, it's a much better experience. I think you're just so overwhelmed by all of it, and the guides that we had were so knowledgeable about everything from history to culture, and geology, like astronomy. You just had this influx of like wonder.
Wow. Okay, that's good to know.
And terror.
Yes.
But with the big moment where I really was like, this is like halfway through the trip, I was like, because halfway through, I'm like, I'm getting it. I'm really experiencing things. And yes, my brain is fucking with me, but I am having an adventure. And it's so cool. Things are starting to happen. I'm starting to sleep a little better.
Right.
And then we do this rapid that was, that just stopped me in my tracks and was like, okay, at any moment, this could all become the most traumatizing thing that's ever happened to you. So we went through this rapid, Crystal Falls or Crystal Rapid, and you have to go around this rock. It was formed by like a huge, because the river can change overnight from a storm or a landslide or, a debris flow or anything from all the little side canyons. It can change overnight. A huge rapid can come in and fuck everything up. And so in the 80s, this rapid formed from a giant, rock fall or something. And you have to get around these rocks in the river. And, we get around. And earlier in the trip, we had a moment, you don't realize what's happening when you're in the rapid because you're just screaming and holding on for dear life. And then at the end, everyone's like, yeah!
Yeah.
And I'm like, and,
oh my God.
And there was a couple times where our engine, they were working on it, tuning it up. And I'm thinking, they'll take care of it. We'll know if something's really wrong. And we go through Crystal Rapids and we get around the rocks and we get, the engine gave out in the middle of it. So we were just at the whim of the river at this point. Thankfully, the river put us over to the left bank and we got stuck there. So the other boat had to come over and they went into action. It was running. These guys can they're like geckos, they run up and down the rocks. They're on the boat. I'm for me to move 2 inches on the boat, I'm hold on, everybody, hey, help me.
right.
And they're all over the boat, and they've got ropes, and they're trying to get us away from because we're just stuck. And, they had said, so I'm what happens if we're stuck? I'm thinking, what is going on? A rope flies and whips me on the leg, and I'm bleeding, and I'm yes, I'm injured. I'm so excited at this point.
I'm part of nature.
Yeah, we get stuck. They unstuck us, and we're oh wow, and I'm thinking, oh, that was my adventure. The near-death experience, not even close.
Right.
So we get back into the river, and we're just, now it's calm, and you have that adrenaline dump in your body and the euphoria that you feel, and everyone's smiling and laughing, and we see the boat in front of us, kind of you can see the boat. Teddy was his name. He was clearly he loved pontificating and you could see that he was telling the boat something in the distance, but the boat was sort of veering towards the literal sheer cliff face of the Grand Canyon. The boat hits the wall, and this dude flies off the boat. He wasn't holding on. And that was, they were the only way you're going to fall off a boat is if you're not holding on when we're telling you to hold on.
Right.
Obviously, there are times where you cannot be holding on. But when we tell you to hold on, you got to hold on. And he wasn't holding on when they hit, and he fell in, and everyone, we were all la-dee-dee-dee-dee, over on our boat, and everyone just fell silent because we could see, and we could hear his wife scream, echo off the canyon walls, and we're just waiting for him to come up.
Yeah.
They're trying to see where he is.
Yeah.
And it felt, maybe it was 10, 20 seconds, but it felt like an eternity.
Yes.
His little head pops up, and then he gets sucked back under again.
Oh my God.
And I was no. And I'm thinking, this whole thing just went to shit. I'm about to see a guy die.
Yeah.
That's what I feel like. And they're positioning the boat. They know what to do when someone falls in. But he gets pulled under 3 times. And he has a life jacket on, by the way. We all have life jackets on.
Because of the rapid?
So when you're in a river, and you see what looks like very flat, calm water in the middle of where there might be some other gentle rapids. And it looks really flat, but it looks a little, I've learned now all these things about water, but it looks just a little elevated, puffy.
Okay.
And it looks like it's sort of spreading out over the surface of something.
Okay.
What that is indicating is that water is coming up, and it's spreading out over the surface on the top. And that means around the edges of that, I guess they would call it an eddy or something like that. But around the edges of that, it means water is going down. And so there's a flow down that's pulling you or anything in there. And he, they got him out. Everyone's thank you, God. Oh, my God. And we get to our next break where we were having lunch. Everyone's gathered around him. Everyone's talking about it. And he's like, first off, my life jacket wasn't on tight enough. I had it loose. I wasn't holding on the way they, he's like, I wasn't following the things that they told me. This made me feel better. I was like, well,
yes, of course.
You weren't following the rules.
Right.
And I'm a rule follower, so I'm going to be okay, buddy. You're an idiot. I'm smart. And he's telling, but he said, he goes, the third time I got pulled under, I thought, I can't, the next time I do this, I'm going to drown because I can't get a breath. Oh, he couldn't, he wasn't above high enough, long enough to get a good breath in. And he was like, I'm a goner.
Oh my
and
God.
I mean, it was,
that's so scary.
he was thanking the guys for saving him. And it was just it was like, everyone was like smiling, but there was a moment amongst the group that was like, and then, sorry, I know one more thing. Okay. So obviously you can die in the water down there, which was scary. And we started doing like cliff jumping and things like that, which I never in a million years would do. Like, I hate even going off like a little diving board. Like, I hate jumping into water.
Yes, it's terrifying.
We did a really big one that was like 15 feet or something like that into the river directly. And it was,
oh my God.
It was really, really scary. And I would never do that again after the feeling. My sister and I talk about it, like, because you go so deep in the water when you jump in.
That's the scary part to me.
And we talked about how cold and dark it feels when you're down there. And then you're like, which way is up? And like all that feeling of just get to the, and it feels like it takes so long to get to the surface that you just, the panic you feel. But anyway, the other scary thing that we encountered, which ended up being like not a big deal, but it was just a reminder. It brought up some stories that people started telling, which was the people. So if you've ever seen the Kevin Bacon film, River Wild.
I've been thinking about that.
We joked about it the whole time, like leading up to it. We're like, is this going to be a Kevin Bacon situation? We're like, we're on the boat with criminals and like it ends up being like
Did you
murder.
See this, Danielle?
It's
Now,
such a funny, crazy movie.
I haven't seen it, but I know people who have seen it. So in that way, I am linked to the movie.
You were linked to the story.
I have the Kevin Bacon effect because
exactly.
So no, I don't think I remember the title, but I don't
Meryl
think I've seen
Streep is in it. It's really good.
And he's the guy that's the bad guy, Kevin Bacon.
Yeah, and it's just nuts. The movie is just insane.
Yes.
But anyway, so we were make jokes about that and stuff, but there was a guy on the trip that was creepy, and he, for some reason, had fixated on me and was like sexually harassing me throughout. With
my God!
Throughout the trip, but it was like jokes. Because once that group finds out you're a comedian,
which that was on you.
Yeah, that was on me. I should have come up with the lie from the beginning, but I felt like I couldn't be dishonest down there. It just strips away everything. Down to your soul.
This is like Nicole Kidman stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So he would make a lot of sexual jokes towards me that were really creepy. And
well, he was a comedian too.
See, he thought,
he was like, "I'm funny. Listen to this."
Yeah. And you think guys like that think you're a comedian, so you can take it.
Yeah.
And so then you're trapped in the, which we've all been in. If you're a funny woman in the world and you're known as that, it's, well, you can't take a joke. I thought you were a comedian. Then they start questioning your whole thing.
Do a joke. Tell me a
joke. Oh my God. And I just know where it goes. So I would just sort of like nod and then I'd go and tell my boat, because he was on the other boat. I'd tell, what do we call ourselves? I think we called ourselves Fun Boat because we were the fun boat. I'd tell Fun Boat what had happened. And I would kind of tell it like, listen to what Jim said. Oh my God. And then at one point the river guy was like, I have an axe. Just so you know. And I was like, and I realized like no one else thought it was funny. And I was like, I don't think it's funny either, but this is my way of dealing with it, is by being able to tell you guys and be like, did you hear what he said? Because what are we going to do? Like,
right, you're trapped for 8 days.
Me too, a guy down here. This is like not gonna happen. I mean, it was pre-Me Too, but like
cancel him from the
what are we gonna do? And so, and it culminated with him having like a crazy breakdown on the last night.
No way.
Yeah, like he got really super drunk and was like howling at the moon, and like my sister deals with she works with like with individuals who are homeless and runs a shelter and all this stuff. So she like she knows how to deal with crisis and mental health stuff. And like, and she just saw his behavior and was like, we got to put him to, like, we have to go get the guides, because they would sleep on the boats and we would sleep on the shore.
Okay.
Because he was acting crazy in the campsite after everyone went to sleep.
Wow.
Oh
And it was the very last night, and they had to get him and like kind of camp
Time
next
to a
they had to like
tree.
sit next to him. Yeah.
So this is the question. Are you glad you did it?
I am glad I did it, because it helped save my book that I was writing.
Oh,
Because I got to write about it for the book. I didn't know that I was going to end up writing about it when I went in, but afterwards I thought, God, that's such a fun story, and I really went through some shit down there, and I could frame it, and write my other stories from my life in this.
okay. Well,
Trip.
I for
framing
one am
device.
going to get the book. It's called Grand, right?
Grand, yeah. And but I am glad I did it. I accomplished things I didn't think I could do. Jumping off the cliff, even though I don't think I would do that ever again.
Yeah.
I'm proud of myself for trying.
Yes.
And fear has dominated my life.
Same.
In many ways, even though some people would consider me brave because I perform and do, there's different types of bravery.
Right.
But other than that, I am very cowardly.
Yeah.
So it was I am not regretful at all. I'm really, really glad I did it. And I would like to do it again.
I love that.
I know. I hear these things and I'm like, I want to try that. But then with the specifics, I don't know. That is kind of really scary.
It's only 8 days. And there's
Only
shorter,
8 days? That
There
seems
are
so
shorter
long.
trips you can do, but I recommend the 8-day because it's just more complete.
Yeah.
And it's long enough to really get rid of the outside world. Like I truly was like hoping we would come out and like Trump would be dead or something crazy had happened. I mean, the only thing that happened then was John McCain passed away. That was the big news while we were down there. But
You're like, I was hoping for somebody else.
Yeah. John McCain passed away and Louis C.K. started performing again.
You're like,
And it was like, okay.
I'm going back to the Grand
going
Canyon.
back. One more question I have for you is, what would be your how to survive advice for anyone who's thinking about taking this trip?
Number one, whatever they say to pack, follow that list and do not add other things to your bag, because you're going to get everyone else has to lift your bag too. And because it's like a fire line thing, you unload the boat all together. So if your bag is really heavy, people get pissed.
Okay.
And you're going to be pissed at yourself. You maybe need a tiny duffel bag of stuff. You're going to wear the same outfit the whole time. You're going to smell. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
And then the other is to hang on.
Yeah. Don't
So
let go.
Let go.
And tighten that life
A lot
jacket.
of metaphor down there. There's a lot of metaphor. Come ready with a notebook to write down all the metaphors that you will you will never be able to talk about life the same. And then Aquaphor. For
moisturizing.
get real dried and cracked. Yeah.
That's a good idea.
There's so many little things like that of like, it's stuff to pack, like the right things. And that you can always, if you do one of these trips, you can talk to the company that you're going with and they'll give you the skinny.
I love this.
Yeah.
But I want to go back because I want to share it with other people. I want my husband to do it with me. I want like everyone to do something like that if you're fortunate enough to have the time and resources to do it. It's an incredible place. And it's made me want to protect, the rivers and
and
the
your
land
notebooks.
and your notebooks. Yeah. Lots of
Protect the
Ziploc
rivers.
bags.
Protect your notebooks.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you so much for coming here and
Thank you
telling
for letting me just spew
No, I know
the
this.
story for as long as I did.
great
Fascinating.
story.
And I will read the book for sure. And you should check out Sarah's stand up and her one person show and her artwork and her Twitter because she's brilliant.
Thank you.
And we will be right back with what did we learn today?
Yes.
Chris, are you ready to learn what we learned today?
I'm all ears.
Compulsion is a 1959 American crime drama film directed by Richard Fleischer. The film is based on the 1956 novel of the same name by Meyer Levin, or as I call him, Meyer Lemon, which in turn was a fictionalized account of the Leopold and Loeb murder trial. Since 1906, the word tarp has been common shorthand for tarpaulin. Today, tarps are just as likely to be made from vinyl or polyethylene, but they were once uniformly heavy canvas that had to be treated with tar to make it water resistant.
Hence.
That's right, I did look that up and did forget it. Find your favorite Harry Potter character in the sky and hope you make it home. When fishing, avoid turning yourself into a Looney Tunes character when casting your hook. You don't want to hook the raft. But what if you did? That would be almost more impressive.
It would be hilarious for yourself, and you need a laugh out there.
Yes. Keep those hulls heeled.
I'm always heeling my hull.
This is good to know. 70 knots is over 80 miles per hour.
I was wondering.
That's great. A solar still distills water with substances dissolved in it by using the heat of the sun to evaporate water so that it may be cooled and collected, thereby purifying it. And I believe you had a well actually on us.
Danielle.
Uh-oh, what did we do?
Well, I got a news article sent to me by a friend of the show regarding volcanoes.
Uh-oh.
So recent episode. The news article is from the LA Times. The headline reads,
Fat rag.
3 California volcanoes are at the top of federal volcano threat list.
But we did say that there were volcanoes in California. So what are we well actualing?
I think they're active volcanoes.
Oh, okay.
So we just should be mad at ourselves right now.
I don't know. I honestly don't remember from that long ago what this is well actualing.
I think
But I didn't say they weren't
I don't
active.
think we thought there were active
Volcanoes in
our
California.
vicinity.
Okay. All right. I'm actualied. I'll take it.
Are you properly actually?
I'm properly actually.
Listen, something exciting.
Yeah.
You can, as a listener, sign up to be on our email list.
That's right.
Go to our website, sign up. You just go to the website and it prompts you to sign up.
Right.
And then you're going to be in the know about new episodes, new merchandise,
Yes.
live events, everybody. You want to know.
And our website is
www.podhowtosurvive.com.
yay.
And as always, remain calm.